Okay.
I'm loving it. Just do it. Finger licking good. These are all slogans that companies use in order to compete with each other for brand supremacy. Yeah, sure, your product could be trash, but if your slogan is memorable enough for the consumer to throw their hard-earned money at you, then you ought to have something good.
Jumping into a market of any kind requires you to gain recognition if you aspire to succeed in selling your product. The safest and usually most successful way of being acknowledged is by advertising your item. This is often seen in forms such as billboards, magazine adverts, and of course, commercials. One of the driving factors that makes an advertisement stand out as well as it does comes from the commonly overlooked slogan. A slogan is a short and quirky catchphrase that closes a statement. Usually it's something that rhymes or has a form of catchy alliteration to it. A good slogan can stick to the viewer's mind for a couple of hours, while a great slogan can separate the men from the boys, and stays in the mind of the listener for quite some time. Quite some time being about a couple years or the rest of their life. Now, what's the point I'm trying to make here? Well, basically every company puts a slogan on something with hopes for that extra push to sell as many units as possible. This goes for all products, especially video games.
To be more specific, video game consoles. Now with every new generation of video games comes new competition. Now video game companies could let their hardware specs and titles speak for themselves, but where's the fun in that?
Therefore, with the addition of a few words that roll right off the tongue, you can go from an to
Oh.
So with all of that in mind, I'm going to take a look at 5 of the biggest video game companies, go through their major console history, and rate each console's slogan on a scale of 1 to 10.
So by using trusty old paper here, I'll be judging each slogan based on effectiveness, does it make sense, and last but certainly not least, memorability.
Let's start simple. Let us begin with the Atari 2600. While it wasn't the first home console, I'd argue that it was the first to make such a big impact. With Atari leading the home console market at this time, there wasn't a whole lot of competition, so the slogan didn't need to be aggressive or have any competitive edge to it. There were a handful of slogans that led the Atari 2600, however there are only 2 that I want to focus on. One slogan of choice was usually sung at the end of a commercial. These 5 words reminded the listener to have their daily dose of glitchy mess in the form of Pac-Man and E.T. But back to the slogan. Now, does this slogan do its job? Well, yeah, it shows the importance of playing Atari in a fun and simple way. It's a cute catchphrase, but seeing as how Atari's last major success was the 2600, I guess the slogan was effective, but only for the time being. Memorable? I can't say much about that, but I'm sure it is. But more than likely just for the people that grew up with Atari.
Overall, I'd give this slogan a solid 6. But hey, did I mention that Atari has another slogan? Now, what is it, you may ask? Well, here goes nothing.
Oh, what a lie.
You shoot the light-sensing zapper. When you play the system with the most arcade hits, you're playing with power. The Nintendo Entertainment System. Now you're playing with power.
The NES went through an era that I like to call the Power Period. That name could use some work, but it's true. Everything Nintendo and Nintendo related was always so power. I mean, now you're playing with power. Power glove, power pad, power this, power that. Nintendo power, 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 power! Power!
The whole power shtick was pretty cool and is admittedly very marketable towards a younger audience. The slogan itself was even revived in 2016 to help promote the upcoming NES Classic Edition. Now, does that make sense? Yes, it does. Was it effective? Girl. And last, but certainly not least, was it memorable? Yes, it was. So with all that in mind, I have to give this slogan a respectable 8.
I freaking love Sega's marketing. They just try so hard and put so much effort into their ads that it's actually really likable. However, when it came time to have a slogan for the Master System, I think Sega kind of dropped the ball here.
The slogan of choice for the Master System was
Sega, the challenge will always be there.
Yeah, I got bored at the. Luckily, Sega would redeem itself by coming up with what is perhaps the greatest slogan of all time.
Who does the hottest ever video football game you've been waiting for? Who does
Genesis does is the greatest video game slogan ever created. I hope the person that came up with it is still getting paid to this day.
And I know what you're already thinking. You're saying, whoa, 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 you're forgetting something. There was a certain N-word that helped enhance this whole experience. And yes, I am forgetting something. Genesis does what Nintendo don't.
16-bit arcade hits.
You can't do this on Nintendo. Genesis does
What Nintendo don't.
Memorable, appropriate, effective, and it goes after the competition, which was the Super Nintendo at the time. An incredibly bold move to go up against a console that was pretty much better in every single way possible. Now this slogan still has people talking, especially the Nintendo don't part. Yeah, sure, Sega eventually went under and just makes video games now, but their legacy still remains. So with all that in consideration, how can you call this anything but a perfect 10?
While we're talking about the 16-bit era, the Super Nintendo did a whole lot of good for video games. But their slogan? All it did was add the word super to the already existing NES slogan, so it became...
Now you're playing with power, superpower.
Yeah, creative, but also a little lazy. Still appropriate and memorable, sure. 6 out of 10. During the console wars between Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis primarily, Atari was struggling to find a spot on the market. And while both systems were hot and running 16-bit graphics, Atari tried to answer back with the brand new system known as the Atari Jaguar. It was marketed as the first 64-bit game console, and its slogan, "Do the math," made that very clear. It even fired shots at other systems like the 32X and the Panasonic 3DO, which were only 32-bit.
All in all, the Atari Jaguar bit the dust, and its slogan didn't do it much justice. It was forgotten about then, and is forgotten about now.
As time progressed, I think slogans got less creative and had less of an impact on the viewer's mindset. Why? Because it went from competitive edge like the Sega Genesis slogan to the Nintendo 64 slogan, which was just get in or get out. Clever, but that's really all I have to say about it. So, 4.
Have you ever been in the middle of something awesome, and then you see someone else doing something even better, and now you just feel bad? Yes, you have. And that's exactly how Nintendo felt when the PlayStation hit the scene.
After rejecting the PlayStation add-on for the Super Nintendo, Sony just decided to release the PlayStation anyways because, why not? Much to Nintendo's surprise, the PlayStation went on to become one of the highest selling consoles ever, and little did Sony know, they also had one of the most iconic slogans of all time.
PlayStation.
I don't care. This is a slogan. While it gets as far away from creativity as humanly possible, I guess it served its purpose because I know that as soon as you hear ended with a
PlayStation,
you get a little hyped up.
Not creative or very interesting, but it is iconic and it's very memorable. So I feel safe when giving this one 7.
Advancing a generation, Sony still kept the iconic sound effects, but now we have an actual slogan. This time it's live in your world, play in ours. Slick, simple, sexy, I like it. But I've been stressing that a good slogan is a memorable slogan, and if I'm being honest, whoever brings up this one? Nobody. 5.
If there's one company who has the absolute worst slogans ever, it's Microsoft. I had a tough time researching this and finding an actual slogan. I gave it a chance because maybe I'd find something good, but nope, I found there's no power greater than X. Boring, lame, it's blonde! Is this slogan the time? Because it's a 2!
Please don't disappoint me, please don't disappoint me, please don't disappoint me. I'm pretty sure this slogan doesn't apply, Nintendo, because I'm positive that if life was a game, I would be winning.
This breaks my heart, Nintendo. I really wanted to say that my favorite console of all time had a better slogan than the Sega Genesis. But my hope hasn't completely vanished. Show me another slogan. You know, there are a lot of reasons to live. But this slogan makes me want to stop existing.
According to this slogan, the PlayStation 3 is an apparent god by using the slogan, "It only does everything." Now you can see how much of a stretch that is because while it is capable of doing a lot, I'm pretty sure it was only used for video games and not everything. Yeah, I'm overanalyzing the situation, but let's be real for 3 seconds. This slogan just isn't any good. Do you remember it? Probably not. So we can toss memorability out of the window. Effective? Yeah, maybe, but this just doesn't do a whole lot when it comes to achieving what a slogan should. I want to give these slogans a fair chance, but they get more lackluster as time progresses. I have to give this a 4.
Now I've talked about the Wii in the past, but there was something I left out in that other video, and it was its slogan, "We would like to play." It was always advertised with 2 Asian dudes that would walk around wanting to play with somebody's Wii.
This slogan, as well as its commercials, obviously had a target demographic, which was family. So seeing as how the Wii was a major success, it's hard to ignore that the overall marketing for this console was stellar, and the slogan wasn't half bad either. This one stuck with me ever since the Wii was a thing, so good job.
While it's nice to end on a good note, I'm still not hopeful for the future of slogans. Nintendo's current one is "There's no play like it," and Sony's is "Greatness awaits," while Microsoft has seemingly just dropped out of the slogan game altogether. Also, I know I put my focus on only home consoles, so to please you, I guess I could talk about some handheld slogans, starting with the Nintendo DS.
Dual Strike, only for Nintendo DS. Rated E for everyone.